The year my brother was born. My mother Carol established the family trust fund. Her rule was simple. Every New Year's Day, I'll hide a coin in one of the special croissant. Whoever finds it has to contribute to the fund for the year. And every year since then, I was the one who bit down on the cold metal. It was a brilliant scheme to exploit me. Every day, Mom would cue. You are the luckiest child in this family, Jenna. Others wish they had your fortune. That lie that I was blessed pokes me into paying for 2 decades. It wasn't until last year that I finally cleared the 23 years of accumulated debt. I thought I could breathe again. But then Mom announced this year. The person who finds the coin contributes $50,000 to the family trust. She'd barely finished the sentence when I bit into something hard. The coin. But this time I didn't say a word. I swallowed it hard and acted like nothing happened. I was done being the luckiest child in the family. Who found the coin this year? The moment Mom asked, her shrewd, calculating gaze snapped right to me as if she already knew the answer. She bypassed everyone else. Anna, was it you? The coin was heavy in my mouth. I hesitated, then forced myself to swallow it down with a gulp of water. Ignoring the slight scratch in my throat, I smoothed the expression from my eyes and shook my head. It wasn't me. Mom's face was a mask of disbelief, though she tried to laugh it off. Don't be silly. It's always you. How could this year be any different? Is the luckiest member of the family finally changing? She reached over and snatched my bowl, plunging her spoon into the few remaining croissant. She poked and prodded them, and her expression swiftly moved from smug certainty to frantic alarm. Her movements grew more agitated as she mumbled. No way, where's the coin? I remember. She stopped herself mid-sentence and looked up at me, her face unnaturally bright as she offered a flimsy excuse. I mean, I remembered that it's always you. So I was worried when I didn't see it. I got a little jumpy. I wanted to laugh at her sudden desperation, but the emotion was too bitter. I just offered a quiet, low and stayed silent. But she wasn't done. Even after ransacking my bowl, she pressed me again. Are you absolutely sure you didn't get it? Jenna? Are you sure you didn't just accidentally swallow it? The pain in my chest was a heavy, dull ache, as if a hand had reached in and was squeezing the air out of my lungs. I felt suffocated. I didn't answer her question directly. Instead, I leveled my gaze on hers and counterattacked. Mom, why do you have to search my bowl? Why are you so certain it has to be mine? Maybe it's in yours or Dad's or Jake's. Mom finally lost her composure. Her eyes darted around the table, a clear sign she was genuinely starting to doubt if she'd rigged the wrong bowl. Seeing her silence, I reached for my younger brother Jake's bowl, preparing to search it. Mom's hand flew out and delivered a hard, sharp slap across my wrist. Her eyes were blazing with fierce protectiveness. Don't you dare. Why would it be in his bowl? My eyes stung with a sudden thread of tears. Why wouldn't it be in his bowl? Why does it have to be mine? My voice trembled as I stubbornly pushed for the answer I knew I'd never get. Why is it impossible for it to be in my brother's bowl? It was then she realized she'd overreacted. She plopped back into her chair, cleared her throat and offered a dismissive explanation. Oh, what else? Your brother isn't the lucky one. You are. My father. Richard scowled and tossed his spoon back into his bowl. His voice clipped with impatience. So where is the damn coin? Then he paused. Then his eyes narrowed into a focused, scrutinizing glare aimed straight at me. Jenna Johnson. You didn't just hide the coin so you wouldn't have to pay the fund, did you? My eyes flickered away for a fraction of a second. But my father was too sharp. He caught it. He shot a look at Mom. Before I could process it, she was on her feet forcefully pulling my jaw open. Jenna, let me see. Did you hide it in your cheek? She ruthlessly pried my mouth open, her fingers digging into the tender flesh of my chin. The pain made me flinch, but she reacted instantly with a cuff to the side of my head. Hold still. When she found nothing in my mouth, I grabbed a spoon and stretched them toward my throat, ramming deep inside. I dry heaved repeatedly. Tears finally streaming from the violation. But the search still came up empty. Next, she moved on to a body search. Nothing. Mom was furious. She delivered another stinging slap to my cheek. And yelled the accusation. Jenna Johnson, where did you put that coin? My voice was a choked sob. I don't know where the coin is. The air thickened and the game of hide and seek reached a dead end. No one could find the coin. Jake, my brother, ever the quick thinker, piped up with an idea. Mom, since the coin is missing, why don't we just make a new batch of croissant? Maybe you just forgot to put the coin in the first one. My parents' strained faces finally softened. Dad was quick with the praise for his favorite. That's my boy. Smartest one here. The future head of this family. That settles it. Let's make another batch and see who gets the coin. This time, Mom's relief was total. You're right. You're right. I must have forgotten to put it in the dough just now. She immediately scurried into the kitchen to mix the dough. I knew with absolute certainty that if she made them, the coin would still end up in my bowl. So I followed her into the kitchen and offered to take over. But Mom recoiled immediately, putting on a show of false concern. No, darling. I misunderstood you earlier. You rest now. Mom will have them ready in a minute. Go watch television with your father. She tried to assure me out. But I stood my ground. I want to make them this time. We stood at an impasse. Dad's voice boomed from the living room. Are those croissants done yet? It's taking forever to boil one single thing. Mom looked at me, a silent war raging in her eyes. And finally conceded, fine. Fine, you can make them. But it was only a half concession. She stood right beside me the whole time, her eyes glued to the dough with the coin tucked inside. She was terrified I might switch it. But I wasn't trying to switch it. I just wanted to see what would happen when there was no human intervention. I wanted to know if I really was the lucky child. Soon, the coin-bearing croissant was lost among its brethren, dropped into the oven. A few minutes later, they were done. Mom didn't give me a chance to get near the oven. She shoved me out of the way. I grabbed the ladle and started furiously searching the water. She was trying to identify the coin's location, but submerged in the water, they all looked the same. Even with her laser-like focus on the one she watched me make, she couldn't tell it apart. Infuriated, she turned her anger on me. Look at the way you cook. It took so long to boil them. How much electricity did you waste? I simply let out a slow breath and didn't reply. Finally, her eyes brightened. She must have identified one of the croissant, because she quickly scooped it out, put it in a bowl and visibly relaxed. She glared at me, then rushed out and placed the bowl she'd carefully selected right in front of me. Jenna, eat up while they're hot. The others were distributed haphazardly among the rest of the family. Only mine was chosen with meticulous care. I curved my lips into a slight bitter smile of sarcasm. I poked the croissant open and put it in my mouth. A sudden sharp clink echoed through the dining room. Mom's face lit up with triumph. Ha, see. I knew it. Our Jenna is still the luckiest one. Since it's you. The $50,000 is all yours, dear. I spit the half-chewed croissant plate and held it out to her, looking perfectly innocent. But Mom, I didn't find the coin. My parents' faces drained of color. Even whiter than theirs was the absolutely frozen expression on my brother, Jake. He turned and pointed to him. It looks like Jake is the luckiest one this year, Mom. So I guess I'm off the hook for the 50 grand. Jake immediately spit the coin into his bowl and started screaming at Mom. How could you have given it to me? This is $50,000. I can't afford that. Dad quickly pulled Jake into a hug, soothing him. Easy. Easy. Of course you won't pay. You're too young. Just focus on school, son. Don't you worry about this. Mom immediately jumped in. That's right, 50,000 is too much for you. You don't have to pay. I had been prepared to feel a flicker of relief, but their words shocked the air out of my lungs. I started trembling with rage, no longer able to suppress the scream building inside. Why does he get a pass? When I was 13 and found the coin, you made me pay $3,000. I still had to do it. Why is he suddenly exempt? Jake pounded and started rubbing his eyes, faking tears. But the look he flashed me was pure malicious triumph. Mom's eyes went cold and her voice was laced with resentment. Your brother is still a child. He can't handle 50 grand. If someone has to pay, I'll cover $200 for him. Cover it for him. When I was 13, she had never uttered those words. Back then, her face was ice cold. We will not pay it for you. You will gather that money. Even if you have to scavenge for cans, or we will disown you. But now she was offering to cover him and only $4,200. Tears fell like rain. It took me several choked attempts before I could speak through my sobs. No, he has to pay the $50,000. If he doesn't have it, he has to earn it just like I did. He can scavenge for money. Mom bit down on her cheek and viciously grabbed my arm, twisting it hard. Why are you being so stubborn? You worthless girl. That was years ago. Your brother can't scavenge for money. What would people say about us? Stop harping on the past. I'm the founder of the Family Trust Fund. And I have the right to decide that. Your brother only has to contribute $200. My legs felt weak and I stumbled a few steps before grasping the edge of the dining table to steady myself. No, you said the rules couldn't be easily changed. Mom ignored me completely, turning to comfort my crying brother. I stood there, an outsider, a complete anomaly in my own family. As Dad left the room, his gaze on me was sharp and threatening. Be the adult, Jenna. Your brother is 10 years younger than you. Don't pick fights with him over petty things. Be generous. Understand? I bit my lip so hard I tasted blood before I finally came back to myself. I sat back down at the table and thought for a long time. I knew I had to compromise, at least on the surface. So I went to find Mom to discuss withdrawing money from the family trust. The original rule stated that the coin finder could not access the fund, but those who didn't find it could. Now that I was in the clear, I could finally lessen the pressure on myself. I hadn't even been able to pay my rent. After clearing my last debt, I collected myself and went to Mom. Mom, could you transfer about $2,000 from the family trust? I need to. I was interrupted before I could finish my sentence by her shrill voice. I don't have any money. How old are you demanding money from your family? Are you trying to leech off us? I was independent at your age. You need to learn from me. Don't just open your mouth and ask for cash. $2,000. Do you think money grows on trees? I pushed back. But the rule was that whoever didn't find the coin could use the fund. Why can't I use it? After all, 99% of that money was contributed by me. And yet I was the one who was forbidden to use it. The irony was devastating. Mom avoided my gaze, reverting to her favorite tactic. Cold silence. He just went back to playing with Jake, ignoring me completely. Dad, smoking by the window, acted like the conversation had nothing to do with him. The silence was driving me crazy. I couldn't help but raise my voice. Why can't I use it? Mom stayed quiet for a long moment, then spoke with a forced, placating tone. It's not that I won't let you, dear. It's just that I put all that money into a certificate of deposit, a locked-in account. I can't withdraw it right now. Is that true? I asked weakly. Me mother snapped instantly as if I had hit a nerve. Are you questioning me? Do you think I'm lying? What could I possibly gain by deceiving you? You walk around with a frown all the time, acting like I owe you millions. Get out. You're not welcome here. Every word felt like a surgical blade, carving the pain deep into my heart. When I didn't move, he stood up and started physically pushing me out the door. Our relationship froze over that day. A week later, Mom called, actively trying to mend the relationship, and inviting me over for dinner. When I arrived, 4 bowls of croissant were arranged neatly on the table. The other 3 were already claimed. Mom approached me affectionately, pulling me towards the table. Jenna, the family trust fund is a little low. So we took a vote, and unanimously decided to try the croissant one more time, to find our biggest contributor. A chance to help the family. Hurry, Jenna, eat. fresh out of the oven and still hot. The eyes of all three of them were fixed on me. Calculating this bowl was clearly meant to seal my fate. When I hesitated, Mom urged me on. Go on, they'll get cold. Filled with a fresh wave of disappointment, I sat down and started eating the croissant. Big bites, practically swallowing them whole. Seeing this, the other three relaxed and began eating their own. But the next moment, Mom froze mid-chew. The sound that followed was not the soft flakiness of pastry giving way, but a sickening, muffled crunch. Mom's eyes bulged. Her hand flew to her mouth, and she let out a high-pitched whimper. She looked at me, then at the bowl in front of me, which I had nearly finished, and back to the half-eaten croissant in her hand. Carol? Dad asked, his fork hovering halfway to his mouth. What's wrong? Mom didn't answer. She leaned forward and spat into her napkin. Amidst the masticated dough and a shard of white enamel from a cracked molar lay the culprit, a dull, silver quarter. The silence that descended on the dining room was heavier than the one before. It was a vacuum, sucking the oxygen out of the room. Oh, I said, my voice cutting through the quiet like a razor. Looks like you're the lucky one, Mom. Congratulations. Mom stared at the coin, trembling. No. No, this isn't right. I marked the bowls. I put a tiny scratch on the bottom of yours. I checked it. Did you? I asked, leaning back in my chair, crossing my arms. Or did you get confused when I asked for a glass of water earlier, and you turned your back for 5 seconds? You always did say I was quick with my hands. Jake stood up, knocking his chair over. You switched them. You switched the bowls. Sit down, Jake, I snapped, the authority in my voice so foreign that he actually froze. I turned my gaze to my mother, who was clutching her jaw, tears of pain and humiliation leaking from her eyes. The rule is simple, remember? Whoever finds the coin contributes to the fund. We just voted. The fund is low. You said it yourself. I can't, Mom stammered, the blood draining from her face. My tooth. I need a dentist. The dentist can wait, I said calmly. The buy-in for this round was big, wasn't it? To help the family. How much was it? Since Jake's penalty was $50,000, and this is a special emergency round, let's call it $50,000 even. Dad slammed his hand on the table. Jenna, stop this madness. Your mother is hurt. And obviously, this doesn't count. You manipulated the game. And you haven't been manipulating it for 20 years? I stood up, grabbing the edges of the table, leaning in until I was nose to nose with my father. Every single year. I paid. I starved. I didn't buy new clothes. I lived in a shoebox apartment so I could send you checks. Now the coin is in her hand. Pay the fund. We don't have it. Mom shrieked, the confession ripping out of her throat before she could stop it. The room went dead silent. I tilted my head. Excuse me. You don't have it. I've contributed over $200,000 to that trust over the last decade alone. Plus interest. There should be nearly $250,000 in that account. Mom and Dad exchanged a look of terrified, guilty complicity. Jake looked confused, glancing between them. Mom? What do you mean you don't have it? It's tied up, Dad lied quickly, though sweat was beading on his upper lip. Investments. Long-term bonds. Open the app, I commanded. What? The banking app. Open it. Now. Or I call the police and report fraud. Because if that money isn't there, that's theft. You wouldn't dare, Dad sneered. I pulled out my phone. 911. Fine. Mom screamed. She fumbled for her phone with shaking hands, unlocked it, and threw it onto the table. It slid across the wood and stopped in front of me. I looked down at the screen. Balance, $42.50. I stared at the number. I blinked, expecting it to change, thinking maybe the decimal point was in the wrong place. But it wasn't. Years of my sweat, my tears, my overtime shifts, my skipped meals, all of it, gone. Where is it? I whispered. The rage was gone, replaced by a cold, hollow numbness. We had expenses, Dad muttered, unable to look me in the eye. What expenses? I scrolled through the transaction history. It wasn't hard to find. Mercedes-Benz dealership, down payment. Tuition, St. Andrew's Private Academy, Jake. Luxury resort, Cabo San Lucas. Cash withdrawal, casino. You bought Jake a car. I looked up at my brother. You drive a Mercedes paid for with my rent money? Jake had the grace to look ashamed for a split second before his entitlement kicked back in. It's a family fund, Jenna. I'm family. I needed a safe car to get to school. And the vacation? I asked, my voice trembling. When I asked for $2,000 to fix my teeth after a car accident 3 years ago, you told me to budget better. You went to Cabo. We needed to decompress. Mom sobbed, holding her swelling jaw. Raising a family is stressful. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, I said. I picked up my purse. I understand that I am not the luckiest child. I am the host organism. And you are parasites. Where are you going? Dad demanded, trying to regain control. We aren't done discussing this. You can't just leave us in this mess. We have a mortgage payment due next week and the account is empty. I laughed. It was a dry, broken sound. I suggest you start baking more croissants. Maybe you'll find a coin in one of them. I walked out the door, the sound of my mother's wailing fading behind me. The first 6 months were the hardest, not because I missed them, but because the silence was so loud. I blocked their numbers. I returned their letters unopened. I moved to a cheaper apartment across town where they couldn't find me, and I started putting that trust fund money into my own savings. It was amazing how quickly my life stabilized when I wasn't bleeding cash into a black hole. But I wasn't just saving. I was planning. I hired a lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Mrs. Higgins who specialized in family fraud. We went over the records. Because the trust was technically in my name as the primary beneficiary, a loophole they used to avoid certain taxes, but they had power of attorney to manage it, I had legal standing. It's a mess, Jenna, Mrs. Higgins told me one rainy Tuesday. They forged your signature on withdrawal slips. This is grand larceny. We can put them in prison. No, I said, looking out the window at the gray city skyline. Prison is too easy. They'd play the victim. They'd cry to the relatives that their ungrateful daughter threw them in jail. I want something else. What do you want? I want them to feel it. The panic. The suffocation. The way I felt every time I bit into that bread. We started with a civil suit, but we kept it quiet. We froze the assets they did have left, the house. It was technically leveraged against the trust fund. Since the trust was empty, the bank, alerted by Mrs. Higgins, called in the loan. A year later, I unblocked Mom's number. It rang almost immediately. Jenna. Oh God, Jenna. She sounded older, ragged. Please, you have to help us. They're taking the house. Jake had to drop out of college. Your father is working as a greeter at Walmart and his back is giving out. I heard, I said coolly. I've been busy. Busy? Doing what? We're drowning here. Making money, Mom. Real money. There was a pause. I could hear the greed sharpen her breathing. What do you mean? I started a tech consulting firm with a partner. It took off. We just closed a deal for $3 million. $3 million. Her voice trembled. Jenna, baby. My lucky girl. I knew it. I always said you were the lucky one. You have to come to dinner. Bring your partner. We need to celebrate. We can fix all of this. I don't know, Mom. Please. Sunday. I'll make roast. No croissants, I promise. Just family. Fine, I said. But I'm bringing a guest. And I have a proposition for you. I hung up and looked at Mrs. Higgins, who was sitting across from me. She wasn't my business partner, but for Sunday night, she would play the part of a venture capitalist. The house looked shabbier than I remembered. The lawn was overgrown. The Mercedes was gone, replaced by a rusted sedan in the driveway. When Mom opened the door, she looked 10 years older. But when she saw my tailored suit and the expensive watch on my wrist, a rental, her eyes lit up with that familiar predatory gleam. Jenna. And this must be Elena, Mrs. Higgins said, shaking her hand firmly. Charmed. Dinner was tense. Jake sat in the corner, sullen and wearing a stained t-shirt. He glared at me. So you're rich now? While I'm stocking shelves at a grocery store. It's called work, Jake, I said, unfolding my napkin. You should try it. Enough, Dad said, trying to project authority but failing. Jenna said she has a proposition. I do. I took a sip of wine. Elena and I are looking for tax shelters. We have liquid capital we need to park in a trust structure. I remembered the family trust. The trust is empty, Dad said quickly. I know. But the structure exists. If we deposit our capital into it, we can pay off the liens on this house and restore the balance. In exchange, I need you to sign full control of the property over to the trust. Sign over the house. Mom hesitated. It's just a formality, Elena said smoothly. You still live here. But the trust owns the asset. In exchange, we inject $200,000 immediately to clear your debts, and give you a monthly stipend of $5,000. Their eyes widened. $5,000 a month. That was freedom. That was the easy life returning. But, I added, there's a clause. A bad faith clause. Since there was mismanagement in the past, if any money is withdrawn without my explicit biometric approval, or if any terms are violated, the stipend ends and the trust claims immediate possession of the property. You would be evicted. We won't touch it. Mom promised, practically salivating. We just want to live in peace. Good. Sign here. They signed. They didn't even read the fine print. They saw the check for $200,000 I placed on the table, and they signed their lives away. For 3 months, I paid the stipend. I watched them buy new clothes. I watched Dad quit his Walmart job. I watched Jake quit his job to become a streamer. They fell right back into their old, lazy, parasitic rhythms. Then came New Year's Day. I invited myself over. I brought a box from a high-end bakery. Happy New Year. I chirped, walking into the house they no longer owned. Jenna. Mom kissed my cheek. She was wearing a new silk blouse. You're just in time. We were about to open a bottle of champagne. I brought croissants, I said, setting the box on the table. The room went still. Oh, honey, we don't do that anymore, Dad said nervously. Nonsense. It's tradition. And since I'm the trustee now, I think we should reinstate it. But with a twist. I opened the box. 4 perfect, golden croissants. One of these has a coin, I said. But this year, the rules are different. If you find the coin, you get a bonus. An extra $10,000 this month. Greed warred with trauma on their faces. Greed 1. Well, Jake said, grabbing one. I feel lucky. Mom and Dad took theirs. I took the last one. They ate voraciously, tearing into the pastry, hunting for the metal. Nothing here. Jake announced, disappointed. Nothing here either, Dad said. Mom finished hers. No coin. Jenna, did you forget to put it in? I smiled. I slowly broke my croissant in half. There, glinting in the dough, was a gold coin. I found it, I said softly. Oh. Well, that's nice for you, Mom said, masking her disappointment. So you get the bonus? Actually, I said, I lied about the rules. I pulled a document from my bag. Section 4, Paragraph C of the contract you signed, I read aloud. The tenants agree to maintain gainful employment. The tenants agree not to incur new luxury debts. Jake bought a new gaming setup on credit last week. Dad, you quit your job. And Mom, you charged a vacation to the Bahamas on a card you opened in my name. I got the alert this morning. Their faces went pale. That constitutes a breach of the bad faith clause, I continued. Which triggers immediate eviction. You can't, Dad whispered. I can. And I have. I motioned to the door. 2 large men in security uniforms were standing on the porch. You have 1 hour to pack your personal belongings. The locks are being changed at noon. Jenna. Mom screamed, falling to her knees. We're your family. You can't do this. You're the lucky one. You have everything. I looked down at her. I felt no joy, no triumph. Just a clean, cool sense of closure. I'm not lucky, Mother, I said, flipping the gold coin in the air and catching it. I'm just finally counting the cost. Jake. Mom grabbed his arm. Do something. Jake looked at me, then at the security guards. He looked at the house he had lived in for free his whole life. He spat on the floor. You're a monster. Maybe, I said. But I'm a solvent monster. Get out. It has been 5 years since that day. I sold the house. The market was hot, and I made a killing. I used the money to start a real bakery. It's a small place on the corner of 4th and Main. It smells like butter and vanilla. We make the best croissants in the city. Every New Year's, we have a special. We bake hundreds of croissants. But we don't hide coins in them. We hide almonds. And if you find the almond, you don't pay a debt. You get a free coffee. Sometimes, I see them. Dad works at a car wash a few towns over. Mom lives in a small subsidized apartment. She sends me letters sometimes, asking for money. I put them in the shredder. Jake joined the army. I heard it was the only way he could get 3 meals a day. It might actually make a man out of him. I stood behind the counter, watching a little girl bite into a croissant. She squealed. Mommy. I found the nut. I found it. Her mother beamed, hugging her. You sure did, baby. You're the lucky one. I wiped my hands on my apron and smiled. A real smile. The debt was paid. The ledger was closed. And for the first time in my life, the future tasted sweet, warm, and completely, utterly mine.